Lawmakers in 3 states are now looking about considering bills that would make it easier to prosecute people who are threatening election officials and poll workers, as they did in many of these videos. Let's listen to this now.
Hey Rick, 234 years ago, the founding Caucasian fathers of America gave us the Second Amendment. Time's running out, Richard. We're coming after you and every motherfucker that stole this election with our Second Amendment. Subpoenas be damned. You're gonna be served lead, you fucking enemy communist. You will be served lead.
We'll make the Boston bombings look like child's play at the poll sites in this county. You just effing wait. No one at these places will be spared.
There's a couple of election workers and poll workers reading and playing many of the threats they've received based off of that same lie that's been pushed by Republicans, led by Donald Trump, that the 2020 election was stolen. So apparently it has something to do with election workers, and they need to die because that's America. That's the America that they say they're patriots and that they're protecting by trying to threaten to kill others. So anyway, Reuters documented more than 850 threats against these election officials in 2020. 850 of these threats, but very few of them were charged with anything, because they were just practicing their First Amendment rights. That is actually what they were saying. It's protected speech to tell someone, I'm gonna put hot lead in you, and that I'm gonna be like the Boston bombers. Because now we're at the point where we're connecting with Boston bombing. When are we gonna start connecting with 9/11 and say, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go and start flying airplanes into buildings. Why is it that this is now acceptable? It's not too soon anymore? You can start embodying the people that we always said we hated and the people we said are attacking America, but they call themselves protecting America. This is how these things shift when you have this kind of a sycophant fan base that follows this one president. So in a statement to Vice News, the FCPD said that while many of these comments were upsetting, they did not rise to the level of a threat from a legal perspective. Crazy how that works. I have a feeling if someone had some of these threats directed at the police officers that said this is just their own free speech, it might not be considered very much free speech at that point. But either way it goes, there's more from this. One of the harassers, whose name is Derek Reisner, claimed that he got the phone number to these folks by watching a segment on OAN. I watched One American News. It's on the background as I was watching One American News, and they put his phone number on there, and they said, give the man a call. So he gave the man a call. So if you've heard that in your OAN, and you see these types of threats happen, which undoubtedly will lead to some kind of violence and attack, do you feel good? Is that mission accomplished? Or then do you go back and then say, I don't know why anybody would believe and listen to what we say when we said it. I don't know why anybody would think that the country is being taken over by Joe Biden just because we said it. I don't know why anybody would call and threaten these election officials just because we said it. But if you find out that they're doing that, you might want to stop doing it. But they won't.
Well, look, my fear about an organization like OAN is that they would say, well, of course the violence is justified. Of course, these people have legitimate feelings that things were stolen from them because we know that everything was stolen from. And so when you have people who buy into the big lie to begin with, then it becomes easier for them to justify when their followers do crazy things like threaten people with lead and threaten them with death. And I feel like we've reached a point in society where even an OAN or a Fox News or anybody else should first and foremost say, no threats are allowed. You cannot threaten people with violence, period. And then have a separate conversation about whether their feelings, what drives their feelings and was the election stolen or not. But as long as we sort of merge the two and say, well, yeah, they shouldn't be making threats, but as soon as you put in the but there, you are essentially allowing and enabling people to make these threats. And when you couple this with, election workers feel like it's no longer safe to monitor an election, to be a poll worker, and who's going to be monitoring the elections and poll workers? Or a guy like Donald Trump has been putting his supporters in these positions all across the country. So the people who are making the threats are winning because they're driving people out who would be neutral arbiters, and they're putting people in who are gonna have the thumb on the scale. And so we all lose on all counts.
So if you don't think they realize that, if everyone else can figure that out, if you don't think the folks who are part of this or the lead on this or who are inspiring these folks to do this type of thing, if you think they don't know that as they're trying to replace these workers with their own folks that will actually do what they're saying these election workers were doing, then you're crazy. This is about power and money. They think of every angle they can to get it. And they're implementing it right in front of us. And when police don't charge these folks with any kind of crimes, they're assisting in that. And that's just the way this whole thing works.